everyone, I'm Helene. Welcome back to Cabin Fever Crochet. I'm here with a fun new tutorial and happy spring colors for a little extra helping of cheer that I think we all can use right now. And I just want to say that I hope you all are staying safe and doing really well. And thank goodness for yarn, YouTube, and each other. So the cowl that I am going to be doing is called the HELENA or HELENA cowl. And it's another free Willow / Herrschners pattern. And as mentioned before, I've been given the okay to do this tutorial and make modifications that I choose to their free patterns. They're free patterns, okay? I am not sponsored, and all supplies were purchased with my own money. If you'd like to follow along with the pattern, you can print it out online, and all links will be listed below, along with timestamps that I've provided to each segment in the tutorial. And now this tutorial isn't the one that I mentioned in my Spring 2020 giveaway. That one's coming soon. I just needed to work out a couple things with it. And so now back to this pattern. It can be worked in just about any type of yarn and gauge, I think, and is a really great stash buster too. And I had some leftover Cairo cotton cakes from last year in a discontinued color. However, Herrschners is now carrying some, and it is named their Cairo yarn. And it's in this color, and they have several others, which I'm really happy about. So if you like some of the previous colors and are sad that they're discontinued, you can now get that. And I just want you to know that I've been using this yarn since it came out a few years ago, and have been really curious how it works up as a garment accessory. From working different types of projects with it though, I have found that the stitch can make a difference on how the texture comes out, like if it's more string-like or creates more of a spongy effect, which this one does because of the type, the fullness, and the type of stitches. And it's 60% cotton, 40% acrylic. And I just love how the colors came out in this, and the stitch definition is always great. I do want to mention one thing. In the tutorial, I suggested going up one hook size for both the starting chain, if you're using that method, and the foundation half double crochet. The thing is that using the foundation half double crochet initially just on the starting chain, that it does increase the overall diameter. So, you know, that is something to keep in mind. Now, the pattern's finished measurements are 26 inches circumference and 10 inches high, or 66 centimeters by 25 centimeters. Now, 26-inch circumference is much more closer on the neck, but mine came out 31.5 inches by 10.5, and it gives me more drape. And also, you know, the finished size can depend on your tension too, but I had plenty of yarn to work this up as I did it, with a little bit left over, enough to make like a flower or two on a hat. So let's take a quick look at the yarn and then we'll get started. I received a new Willow Yarns catalog, and most definitely my happy place. Here, here, here. Okay, and they have others in here that I'm very interested in, but I'm going to save that for another video. And I do recognize previously that were Cairo cotton cakes. Now this photo though, I can tell it's overexposed, so the colors look really washed out, but you can tell from this little child's dress, which is the same color that I'm wearing, and is called Canterbury Bells, and it was formerly in the Caron Cotton Cakes in their Sunset Dreams. So if you love this color and missed it, you can get it. And then it shows a shawl and a market bag. It's great for bags. So it comes in 5.3 ounce cakes, 150 grams, 311 yards. It's a lighter weight, number 4, and I mentioned 60 cotton, 40 acrylic, and they are $8.99 a cake. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the tutorial. Okay, so as far as supplies, pencil and paper, you might want to just keep track of your numbers, what you wind up with, what your circumference and your width wound up being. In case you want to make this again, then you have a place from where to start, give you an idea. And I always like having a little locking stitch marker around. Sometimes there are little spots here and there to remind myself. And then you don't have to have a measuring tape, but they're handy. And then for the same reason I mentioned as keeping track too. But you can always just gauge to fit by the chain, unless you're making it for someone else and you have specific measurements. And as far as hook sizes go, the recommended hook size is a 5mm H hook, and I agree with that. Another way to get that to fit a little bit bigger, or if you want this to be more open and drapey, but retaining the nice stitch definition, you can just do a little light steaming, smoothing it out with your hand. It's going to relax and open up those stitches, or you can just leave it as is. It really doesn't need to be. That's up to you. That's your call. I just want to give you that option. But I do recommend going up the one hook size to the 5.5 for your initial starting chain or your starting foundation half double crochet, and this can be worked either way. And particularly if you tend to be a little bit tighter crocheter, and that's going to help keep your beginning round the same circumference as your finishing round. The pattern calls for a chain of 99, so if you just go in increments of 10 and then -1. So for example, my swatch is 29. Okay, so I have my 30 minus 1. The pattern is 10 times 10 is 100 minus 1, you have your 99. So if you're making this perhaps, say for a child, you might want to go 79, somewhere in there. Or if you want a little bit longer down your neck, or if you want to make an infinity scarf, I don't know, your number might be 109, 119, 129, and so on. Okay, so you get the idea for that. How the pattern is worked up after we begin our initial foundation round, then we have 3 rounds, rounds 2 through 4 of the base of our pattern, which is going to be at the bottom and the top. And then we have 3 more setup rounds, which is what starts the main design and the pattern throughout. And then it's just a 2-round repeat. We just repeat rounds 6 and 7 to your desired width. And then we just go back and repeat those beginning rounds that we started with here, and just do pretty much the same thing to finish it off. And that's really all there is to that. So either way, whether you're doing the chain of 99 or whatever your number is, or you're doing the foundation half double crochet, which that's what I'm going to do, but either way, you want to slip stitch however way that you do it, and leave yourself a long enough tail to sew in your ends and connect the two, and begin with that 5.5mm if you have one, and you feel that works for you. Now if you're a really loose crocheter, I don't know, you may or may not need to do that. But anyway, if you want to do the chain, you just chain however many your number is in how I explained. Okay, when you get to your length, as the pattern says, you are just going to slip stitch into that first chain, and I recommend going through the top 2 loops It's going to give you a good base. Okay, and you just slip stitch those two together, and then you chain one. Oops, wait, no, and then you switch down to your H 5mm, okay? Then chain one, and I recommend to cinch that chain down because that's going to give you the least visible join. All right, and then into the same stitch, yarn over and work half double crochet, and that same stitch and 1/2 double crochet in each stitch all the way around. That's all you're going to do. And then when you get back to the beginning, then you'll just slip stitch to join in that top of your first half double crochet. Right? And then everything else will be the same. Now if you want to do foundation half double crochet like I am, okay, again start with the 5.5mm, and I like this just because you get the chain and round one all in one, and it may seem like it takes a little longer, but I like the nice finished edge, and it's more of the same height at the bottom of it as the last round that we do at the other end, because you wind up getting a full stitch on the base. I'm just going to show you a few times here so we can keep moving on. Chain two, yarn over, go back to the first chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. Always bring that loop up to the height of your other stitches to prevent from shrinking that inside down. Okay, you're going to yarn over, go through the first loop, and see you just made a chain. And you're going to yarn over, pull through all three, and that completes your half double crochet stitch. So the half double crochet is always going to be the first three loops coming off the loop on your hook, and then the stitch next to it is your chain. Okay, so again, yarn over, now go back into the chain I just showed you, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through that first loop, you just made another chain, yarn over, pull through all three. And the more you do, it's easier to see, and then the quicker it goes. And see, these are real clearly defined and easy to see, and I do count this first full stitch, not the two on the edge, but the first full stitch on top all the way across. Okay, so let's work your foundation half double crochet, and I'm going to finish mine, and I will meet you back at the beginning and show you how we're going to connect and go on from there. Okay, see you in just a bit. I have finished my foundation half double crochet of 99, and I counted twice. I always do, sometimes 3 times if I'm ever in doubt, just to be sure. Alright, so now we're going to connect, and the chain's on the top, your work's on the bottom, and we need to reverse that. So I'm going to turn the work, okay, right side up, take your working yarn, put it over the top to the back. So now this is the right side of our work that we just turned. We want that to be on the outside, the wrong side on the inside. Make sure you're not twisted in any way. Okay, smooth that out. Your tail end should be on the bottom left. Going to bring this around. Okay, your inside. I'm going to turn it. Here's the outside. Okay, bring the other end. with your yarn as I showed you. Okay. Put your hook on your loop. And now slip stitch through the top loops of your other side. Okay, you're going to slip stitch those two together. And this is where, if you want, a stitch marker can come in handy for just when we do our first round, just to keep those connected so they don't wind up twisting. And I always make sure that I don't have any twists. Okay, so now we're going to move on to round 2. Round 2, 3, and 4 are all the same, it's a repeat. And now you're working with your H5 millimeter. Chain 1, cinch it down, and that's going to help that join be less visible as you go up. Now, working in the back bump of the half double crochet from the previous round. Now the back bump, or otherwise known as the third loop, this is essentially the camel stitch, and it's going to push these stitches forward and give you that nice raised ridge. So it's always a little more difficult to find that in this first stitch, so be very careful because you don't want to accidentally jump over to the next stitch by mistake and then you're going to be short one. Alright, so but take a look at these next door because they're easier to see. Okay, you've got your back loop and your front loop makes up that V of each stitch, and it's here in this first stitch as well. So you roll your work over, and there's another loop right here. That's your third loop, except for this first little stitch. Alright, so here's the back loop, front loop, back loop, third loop. Okay, so you're going to yarn over and just work your half double crochet right into that third loop. Okay, I did the hard parts over with, okay? So again, you just repeat that. Front loop, back loop, and right behind that back loop is the third loop. And then you finish your half double crochet. And the more you do, the more it's going to push those stitches forward and pop that third loop up to where you really don't even need to roll your work. See that? Okay, so just half double crochet all the way around in that third loop. And we are going to do this exact same thing for 2 more rows, for a total of 3 rows, 2, 3, and 4. So I will meet you back around the beginning. I'll join and show you how to start the next round. Alright, so I will see you back around. Here I am at the end of round 2. I have 1 more stitch left. Work that together. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that first half double crochet. Now at the beginning of round 3, which is 3 and 4, is going to be exactly what we just did. Okay, so chain 1, cinch that down, and then again roll to the back and make sure you're getting into that third loop. So you have your front loop, your back loop, and the third loop. Work that half double crochet, and then what you can do into the top of the stitch we just made, you can put a stitch marker there just so that when you come back around there's no confusion where that first stitch is. Right, and now you're just going to repeat your front loop, back loop, the third loop, or the back bump. And you're going to do just what we did in this previous round, is you're going to half double crochet into that third loop. All right, then when you come back around, then again you will slip stitch into this first half double crochet, chain 1, work into the third loop right here, and for each round you will still be maintaining your original stitch count, whatever that number is. I did the 99, so I should still have 99 stitches when I come back around each time. One thing I do want to say is that when you come back around, another good reason to mark that is because do not accidentally work into the slip stitch here. You want to make sure that you've worked into your last full stitch. That is not a stitch, that's our join. And then when you come around, then you're going to slip stitch into again that first half double crochet. And if at some point you're not really sure if that's a stitch or not, you can take a third stitch marker and mark that last stitch that you just made, and then the first stitch again. Okay, here I am going on to round 4, my last round of working in that third loop. Okay, so I will see you back around. I am back around to the end of round 4, and now we are going to slip stitch to join into that first half double crochet, and now onward to round 5, and where more fun begins. Chain 1, cinch that down tight. Okay, and now working through both loops of each stitch, and both loops all the way around. We're going to begin working a half double crochet 3 together over these first 3 stitches. Alright, so to do that, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that same first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the first loop. Okay, yarn over and go into the next stitch, pull up a loop and stop, leave those on your hook. You will have 5 loops. Again, repeat that, yarn over into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and now you will have 7 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through 6, leaves 2 loops on the hook. Okay, yarn over, pull through those 2, chain 1. That locks those stitches in. And we're going to work half double crochet 3 togethers over this last stitch we just worked and the next 2. And that's going to be the sequence, and then you always chain 1. And when you get to the end, make sure you chain 1 on that as well, that last stitch. Okay, so you ready? Yarn over, go into this last stitch where you just finished, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop. You have 3 remaining still. Yarn over, insert your hook into the very next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and make sure that when you pull up those loops, they're the same height as all the rest. This leaves you 5 loops on your hook. You do that again, yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. This leaves you with 7 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through the first 6, leaves 2, yarn over, pull through those 2, chain 1. Okay, I'll do one without talking and then we'll go through that again. Okay. There, so you can see that just kind of in one fluid motion. Yarn over, go into that last stitch, pull up a loop, pull through the first one, go into the next stitch. There you have 5. Go into the next stitch, 7, pull through 6, pull through the last 2, chain 1. Yarn over, insert your hook into the last stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop, you still have 3, yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, that gives you 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the next, pull up a loop, you have 7, yarn over, pull through 6, leaves 2, yarn over, pull through those last 2, chain 1. I'll do one more with you, and if you need to see that again, you can always rewind and watch as many times as you need to, okay? Into that last stitch you just worked, okay? So you can just get going, you know, and find your fluid motion. Just be sure that when you go, you're working into that first stitch, you pull up, go through that first loop, and remember with the next 2 that you stop and leave those loops on your hook. Because, you know, once you kind of get into a rhythm, tend to want to do the same thing that you started, or I do anyway. So just keep that in mind, okay? And always remember to put in that chain. When you find your rhythm, I mean, you can really get moving here, and this works up very quickly once you get going. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I will see you back around, and we will go on to round 6 and then 7, and these are our setup rounds, okay? And then the repeat is just going to be round 6 and 7, 6 and 7 to the width that you want. And I'll tell you, you know, when we get after round 7 how many the pattern recommends, and then we finish off in the same way that we began. Here I am at the end of round 5. I have one more set to go, and I always just kind of like working the last with you. And I want to tell you that if you find when you come back around that your stitch count is off and you know that it's correct up to this point, go back through and look at each sequence and make sure that you didn't accidentally skip over working in the last stitch you worked, and that you accidentally worked into the next stitch, and then that's going to make you come up short 1 or however many if you've done it more than once. And I know that because I did that. So you just kind of want to pay attention to that a little bit. All right, that's just an easy thing to look for if your count is off. Oh, another thing I want to mention, when you do this round here, you lose 1 stitch, and it brings your work in. You see on this edge here how it's curved up, and it's like that on both sides. It tightens and brings it in. However, on this next round we're going to add that stitch back in so it all evens out from one round to the next. Okay, so let's work this last together. Okay, yarn over, back into that last stitch. And remember to chain 1. We're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that first half double crochet 3 together. Okay, get that nice and snug. Now, beginning of round 6, we're going to chain 1, and again cinch that down nice and tight. That's just what I do. Doesn't say that in the pattern, but it's going to help do a couple of things. Okay, and I'll show you when we finish this next stitch. We're going to single crochet into each half double crochet together and each chain 1 space around, and we're going to do that all the way around up to the last chain 1 space, and we're going to put 2 single crochets in this last space. By putting the second one in, makes up for the stitch we lost here, and then it's going to bring this stitch piece back out, and it's going to be even all the way to the top. Alright, so I chained 1, I cinched it down. I'm going to single crochet into that first half double crochet 3 together. Now we're going to single crochet into that chain 1 space, and then single crochet into the top of the next half double crochet 3 together. Single crochet into that chain 1 space and into the top of the half double crochet 3 together. That's what you do all the way around, and just be careful, don't cinch these single crochets down real tight. You want those to be the same tension as the rest of your work. So you just continue 1 single crochet in every chain 1 space, and at the top of that half double crochet 3 together. So continue all the way around, and when you come back around, remember to put 2 single crochets in that last chain 1 space. But I will meet you back here, we'll do that together, and then we'll join, and then this is where we repeat the 2 rows. Here I am at the end of round 6, and I work those 2 single crochets in that last chain 1 space. So we're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet, and then we're going to begin round 7, which is the same as this round, working our half double crochet 3 togethers. Again, begin with the chain 1. I'm going to cinch that down, and you are going to see the chain up here on each round. However, because it's a cowl, I don't think you're going to see it. And even if you have short hair, back of your neck, it's going to squish down. Okay, but I still like to bring that chain 1 down tight as much as possible to make that even less visible. Alright, so again, we're going to work that half double crochet 3 together over the first 3 stitches, beginning with the stitch, very first one. Okay, so again, yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, pull up a loop. You have 3, yarn over, go through that first stitch, you still have 3, yarn over into the second, pull up a loop, yarn over into the third, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all except the last, through your 6 stitches, leaves 2, yarn over, pull through those 2, chain 1, just like we did before. And again, now we're going to work half double crochet 3 togethers over that last stitch and the next 2. Okay, so beginning in that last stitch. Now when your yarn's the same color, you really want to pay attention, make sure you're going into the right place, and we're just repeating that same half double crochet 3 together, and always make sure you chain 1 afterwards. So continue on working your half double crochet 3 togethers, and I will see you back around. We're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of the first half double crochet 3 together, bring it in tight, chain 1, cinch that down, and into that same top of that stitch, single crochet, and then again in every chain 1 space and at the top of every half double crochet 3 together all the way around. And again, after each single crochet round, you should have the same number of stitches where you began. You just carry on and you repeat this sequence over and over, round 6 with the singles, and then round 7 with the half doubles together. And again, now we're on repeating round 6 with the single crochets. And remember, when you come back around, put 2 single crochets in that last chain 1 space. After our first setup rounds, you are repeating 8 more times this sequence. Okay, so that's 1, 2, now we're on our third, which will be a total of 9 altogether, or however many or less that you want to do. And then I will meet you at the end, which would be round 23 from the beginning, and then we'll carry on to finish it off, which will be mirroring the beginning here. Okay, well, have fun, and I will see you at the top. I'm back, and at the end of my last repeat for rounds 6 and 7, and as I mentioned, you do see the visible join, and it leaves a little bit wider space because of the 2 single crochets, but because it's even, and you know, like I said with the cowl, they do kind of smush down like that when you're wearing it, so it all blends. So now this brings us to round 24, and they're real easy. We're just going to slip stitch again like we have been into that first half double together, all right, and again chain 1, and now we're going to just half double crochet in each stitch all the way around. So in every half double together and in every chain space. So instead of working each single crochet like we did, we are working a half double, and then when we come back around, we're going to place 2 half double crochets into this chain 1 space. And this is just a regular half double crochet now, not one together. All right, so just 1 half double crochet in the top of a half double together from the previous round and in the chain 1 space. That's it, all the way around. Okay, I will meet you back at the end of round 24. I'm back around at the end of round 24, and I hope you placed your 2 half double crochets in that last chain 1 space. Let's connect. Slip stitch into the top of your first half double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, move that yarn out of the way as you roll to the back so you can see the stitch, and because that first one is a little bit tighter, it's harder to see, but remember you've got your front loop, back loop, and the third loop is just below. Okay, so try that again. There we go. And complete your half double crochet, and then 1 in each stitch all the way around, just like we did at the beginning. Okay, and when you come back around, again, you can grab that stitch marker if you need it, because remember, this is our slip stitch. This is not a stitch here, so if you need to mark that to help you remember and mark your first half double crochet, go ahead and do that. But you will slip stitch back into the first half double crochet, chain 1, and work 2 more rounds of half double into that 3rd loop. So for a total of 3. This is your first, and then do 2 more. I'm going to do the same, and I will meet you back, which will bring us to the end of round 27. Here I am at the end of round 27, and that completes our pattern. So just as usual, you're going to slip stitch to the top of that first half double crochet. You can finish off as you normally would. I'm going to chain 1, cut my yarn, leave enough extra to sew in my ends, just tighten that stitch down, and then I will take a yarn needle and just weave it in. Make sure it's nice and secure. Might put a little knot somewhere down in there where it's a little bit invisible, and then pull it through the stitch on the back, and then just weave it through a little bit, however you normally weave in your ends. And that's it for this side, and then we need to go around to the other side and connect the two. And then now back around to the beginning to join my 2 ends. And I usually just take a look at it, pick a spot, probably just go through those first 2 loops as I would as if I were using my crochet hook, and cinch those in, not to lose the first stitch, but I want to bring that knot to the inside of my work. As long as it's secure and it looks nice and clean. I usually come back up the other side again through the center of the first stitch, and then bring that over into the center of, or excuse me, the last stitch or first stitch, you know, it's upside down now, and then into the center of the stitch next door. That's it. Make sure they're nice and joined, and then again I'll start weaving in my ends, or if you have another method you prefer, just do that if you like. You like that better. Well, I sure hope that you enjoyed this tutorial and will give it a try. Please let me know if you do. And if you would, please give me a great big thumbs up, that like, subscribe, share. Love your comments. Leave them below. And as always, please, please everyone, take care, okay? And I will see you again real soon.